her hand pressed protectively over her growing belly. Deshawn's eyes held something she had never seen before. Doubt mixed with anger that made her stomach turn cold with fear. "You think I'm lying about this baby?" she whispered, her voice barely audible in the narrow hallway of their small Atlanta home. Behind Deshawn, she could see Mama Ruby and Aunt Nessa watching from the living room, their faces showing the same suspicion that had been growing in the family for weeks. "Sasha, I done seen women fake pregnancies before," Deshawn said, his voice harder than she'd ever heard it. "My cousin Tanya did it to trap her man. You've been acting strange, hiding doctor visits, won't let me come with you. What am I supposed to think?" The accusation hit her like a physical blow. 3 months pregnant with their first child, Sasha had been trying to protect the pregnancy after 2 early miscarriages the year before. Dr. Lewis had advised her to keep stress low and avoid announcing until she was further along. But her caution had backfired, creating doubt where there should have been joy. "Deshawn, please," she said, reaching out to him. "I can show you the ultrasound pictures. I can call Dr. Lewis right now." "Pictures can be faked," Aunt Nessa called from the living room. "And doctors lie for money. I seen it on the news." Mama Ruby nodded her gray head. "That girl been eating us out of house and home, claiming she's eating for 2. But she don't look pregnant to me. Where's the glow? Where's the sickness in the morning?" Sasha felt tears burning her eyes. She had been lucky with morning sickness. Dr. Lewis said some women just didn't get it badly. And the glow everyone talked about? All she felt was tired and worried about keeping this pregnancy healthy. "I'm carrying small," she tried to explain. Dr. Lewis said. "Dr. Lewis this, Dr. Lewis that," Deshawn interrupted. "Why won't you let me meet this doctor? Why won't you let me come to appointments? If you're really pregnant with my baby, why you acting like you got something to hide?" The hurt in his voice made her heart break. She understood his confusion, but she had been trying to protect their hope. After losing 2 babies early, she couldn't bear to see that pain in his eyes again if something went wrong. "I was trying to wait until 12 weeks, she said quietly. "Until we knew everything was okay. Or until you figured out how to keep lying," Mama Ruby said, standing up from her recliner. "Child, I raised that boy from 10 years old. I can see when something ain't right. And this whole pregnancy story got holes in it bigger than a screen door." Sasha looked around at the 3 most important people in Deshawn's life, feeling like she was drowning. These were the people who had welcomed her into their family 2 years ago when she and Deshawn got married. Mama Ruby had taught her how to make Deshawn's favorite cornbread. Aunt Nessa had helped her learn to braid hair properly. They had been her family too. Now they were looking at her like she was a stranger trying to steal something precious. "Maybe we should go to the doctor together tomorrow," she suggested, her voice shaking. "You can meet Dr. Lewis. You can see for yourself." Deshawn stepped closer, and something in his posture made Sasha's heart race with fear. "Nah, I think we need to settle this right now. You want to prove you really carrying my baby? Then prove it." "How?" she whispered. "If you're really pregnant, then you'll be careful about that belly, won't you? You'll protect it like it matters?" The question confused her. "Of course I would." "Deshawn, what are you?" He moved so fast she didn't have time to react. His hands shot out and shoved her hard in the chest. Off balance on the narrow stairs, Sasha felt herself falling backward, her arms windmilling as she tried to catch herself. Time slowed as she saw the wooden steps rushing up to meet her, her mind screaming one thought: the baby. She hit the stairs hard, her back slamming into the edge of the 3rd step. Pain exploded through her spine and she slid down the remaining steps, coming to rest at the bottom in a heap. For a moment, she couldn't breathe, couldn't move, couldn't think beyond the terrible pain radiating through her body. From upstairs, she could hear Mama Ruby laughing. See? If she was really pregnant, she would have grabbed that belly first thing. Instead, she tried to catch herself with her hands. "Ain't no pregnant woman gonna do that." "You right, Mama Ruby," Aunt Nessa agreed. "Real pregnant woman would have curled up around her stomach, protected that baby first. This girl ain't pregnant at all." Sasha lay at the bottom of the stairs, tasting blood in her mouth, feeling like the world had gone completely insane. Through the pain, she could hear Deshawn's heavy footsteps coming down the stairs. "Get up," he said, his voice cold. "Get up and stop pretending. The test is over, Sasha. We know the truth now." But as she tried to push herself up from the floor, Sasha felt something warm and wet spreading between her legs. Horror filled her as she realized what was happening. She looked down at her hands and saw blood, bright red blood that meant only one thing. "Oh God," she whispered, her voice broken. "Oh God, the baby." The room went silent except for the sound of her ragged breathing. Even Mama Ruby stopped laughing. Deshawn knelt down beside her, and for the first time since this nightmare started, she saw uncertainty in his eyes. Sasha? What's that blood? She looked up at him through her tears, her hand moving to her stomach where she could feel cramping starting. You killed our baby, she whispered. You killed our baby because you didn't believe me. The words hung in the air like smoke from a fire, changing everything. Mama Ruby's hand flew to her mouth. Aunt Nessa made a sound like she'd been punched. And Deshawn's face went from anger to horror as he realized what his test had really proven. No, he said, reaching for her. No, Sasha, I didn't mean. Don't touch me, she said, her voice stronger now despite the pain. Just call 911. Call them now. As Deshawn fumbled for his phone with shaking hands, Sasha closed her eyes and tried to hold onto the fading presence she could feel slipping away inside her. She had tried so hard to protect this pregnancy, had been so careful, so hopeful. And now it was gone because the people who were supposed to love and protect her had turned into strangers who didn't trust her word. The sound of sirens in the distance mixed with the sound of her quiet crying, and Sasha realized that even if she survived this night, nothing would ever be the same again. The emergency room at Grady Hospital buzzed with activity, but in room 312, time seemed frozen. Sasha lay on the narrow bed, staring at the ceiling tiles while Dr. Patricia Lewis reviewed her chart. The bleeding had stopped, but the cramping continued, each wave a reminder of what she had lost. Deshawn sat in the corner chair, his head in his hands. He hadn't spoken since the ambulance arrived, hadn't looked at her since the paramedic confirmed that yes, she had definitely been pregnant, and yes, the fall had caused a miscarriage. Mrs. Coleman, Dr. Lewis said gently, I need to explain what happened tonight. You were 11 weeks pregnant with what appeared to be a healthy fetus. The trauma from the fall caused what we call a traumatic miscarriage. I'm so sorry for your loss. Sasha nodded, not trusting her voice. Dr. Lewis was a kind woman in her 40s who had been treating Sasha since her first pregnancy loss. She had understood Sasha's caution about announcing this pregnancy, had supported her decision to wait. Will I be able to have children again? Sasha finally managed to ask. There's no medical reason why not, Dr. Lewis assured her. But given this is your third loss, I'd recommend we do some additional testing when you're ready. There might be underlying factors we need to address. Third loss. Deshawn's voice cracked from the corner. What does that mean? Dr. Lewis looked between them. Your wife has been through this before, Mr. Coleman. She's shown tremendous strength in continuing to try for a family. The weight of those words settled over the room. Deshawn slowly raised his head, and Sasha could see he was crying. Sasha, why didn't you tell me about the others? Because you would have worried, she said quietly. Because you would have treated me like I was made of glass. Because I wanted to give you good news, not more sadness. The door opened, and Simone rushed in, still wearing her scrubs from her job at the Department of Family Services. Someone had called her sister, though Sasha wasn't sure who. Oh honey, Simone said, going straight to Sasha's bedside. I came as soon as I heard. Are you okay? The simple question broke something open in Sasha's chest, and she started crying again. I lost the baby, Simone. I lost our baby. Simone held her sister while she cried, her eyes finding Deshawn over Sasha's head. The look she gave him could have frozen fire. What happened? Simone asked, though her tone suggested she already knew it wasn't an accident. I pushed her, Deshawn said, his voice barely a whisper. I thought she was lying about being pregnant. I pushed her down the stairs to test her. God help me, I pushed my wife down the stairs. Simone's face went through several emotions before settling on disgust. You did what? I didn't know, Deshawn said, standing up. I thought she was faking it. Mama Ruby and Aunt Nessa said. I don't care what they said. Simone snapped, keeping her voice low but her anger clear. You pushed a woman down the stairs. Your wife. What kind of man does that? Dr. Lewis cleared her throat. I need to speak with Mrs. Coleman privately. Could you both step outside for a moment? When they were alone, Dr. Lewis pulled a chair close to the bed. Sasha, what your husband did tonight was domestic violence. I have to ask, has he hurt you before? No, Sasha said quickly. Never. He's never laid a hand on me. He's gentle and kind, and this isn't like him at all. People can change under pressure, Dr. Lewis said carefully. And pregnancy can bring out unexpected reactions in partners. I want you to know that you have options. There are resources available if you need them. Sasha shook her head. He's not that kind of man. He made a terrible mistake, but he's not abusive. I know the difference, my father was. Dr. Lewis nodded, making notes. I'm going to recommend counseling for both of you. Individual therapy and couples counseling. What happened tonight was traumatic for everyone involved, and you'll need help processing it. Will you tell him what you told me about the other pregnancies? Sasha asked. About why I was being so careful? If you want me to, yes. He needs to understand what you've been through. When Deshawn and Simone returned, Dr. Lewis explained Sasha's pregnancy history. She talked about the early miscarriages, the emotional toll they had taken, and why Sasha had been so protective of this pregnancy. She was trying to protect your hope, Dr. Lewis said to Deshawn. After 2 losses, many women become very cautious about sharing news. She wasn't hiding anything from you. She was trying to spare you pain until she was sure everything was progressing normally. Deshawn sank back into his chair, the full weight of what he'd done settling on him. I killed our baby because I didn't trust my own wife. The baby died because of trauma, Dr. Lewis corrected. And that trauma happened because fear and suspicion took the place of communication and trust. This is a tragedy, but it doesn't have to be the end of your marriage if you both commit to healing. Simone spoke up from beside Sasha's bed. What about the family members who were encouraging this? The grandmother and aunt who were laughing while my sister lay bleeding at the bottom of the stairs. Dr. Lewis looked grave. Family dynamics often play a role in domestic violence situations. Everyone involved needs to understand the consequences of their actions tonight. They need to apologize, Sasha said quietly. They need to understand what they did. Deshawn nodded. They will. I promise you they will. Words aren't enough anymore, Simone said. My sister could have been killed tonight. She lost a baby she wanted desperately. Apologies don't fix that. No, they don't, Deshawn agreed. But they're the start of making this right. I'll do whatever it takes, Sasha. Whatever you need from me. Sasha looked at her husband, seeing the man she fell in love with underneath all the pain and regret. I need you to believe me when I tell you something. I need you to trust that I love you and would never lie to you about something this important. And I need your family to accept that I'm your wife, not some outsider trying to trick you. Done, Deshawn said immediately. All of it. I'll make sure they understand. Dr. Lewis stood up. I'm going to discharge you in the morning, Sasha. You'll need to take it easy for a few weeks while your body recovers. And I want both of you to start counseling within the week. This trauma needs professional attention. After Dr. Lewis left, the 3 of them sat in silence for a while. Finally, Simone spoke. I'll stay with you for a few days, she told Sasha, until you feel ready to be alone with him again. Simone, Deshawn started. No, she cut him off. You lost the right to object to anything when you put your hands on my sister. She gets to decide when she feels safe, not you. Sasha reached for Deshawn's hand, surprising them both. I want to go home tomorrow. To our home. Together. Are you sure? Simone asked. He's my husband, Sasha said simply. And we lost our baby tonight. We need to grieve together and we need to figure out how to trust each other again. We can't do that if we're apart. Deshawn squeezed her hand gently. I swear to you, Sasha, I will spend the rest of my life making up for tonight. I will never doubt you again and I will never, ever hurt you again. I know, she said and meant it. But we have a lot of work to do. Outside, dawn was breaking over Atlanta. It would be the first sunrise of their life after losing their 3rd baby, the first day of learning to trust again. The road ahead looked long and difficult, but for the first time since the stairs, Sasha felt a small spark of hope that they could find their way through it together. 3 days after the hospital, Sasha sat on her living room couch with ice packs on her bruised ribs, waiting for the conversation that would either heal her family or break it apart completely. Deshawn had spent the morning cleaning house, cooking her favorite foods, and making phone calls to arrange what he was calling a family meeting. Mama Ruby and Aunt Nessa were due to arrive any moment, and Sasha's stomach was churning with anxiety. She had barely eaten since losing the baby, and the thought of facing the women who had encouraged her husband to test her pregnancy made her feel sick. You don't have to do this today, Simone said from the kitchen where she was making tea. You just got out of the hospital. This can wait. No, it can't, Sasha replied. Every day we wait is another day this poison sits in our family. I want this dealt with now. Deshawn came down from upstairs, where he had been setting up a small nursery that now needed to be taken apart. His eyes were red-rimmed from crying, but his jaw was set with determination. They're here, he said as a car pulled into the driveway. Mama Ruby and Aunt Nessa walked through the front door like they always did, talking loudly and carrying covered dishes. But when they saw Sasha on the couch, pale and bruised, their chatter died away. Well, Mama Ruby said, setting down her casserole dish. You look terrible. Mama Ruby, Deshawn's voice carried a warning. Sit down. Both of you. We need to talk. The older women settled into their usual chairs, but there was tension in the room that had never been there before. Aunt Nessa kept glancing at Sasha and looking away quickly. I called you both here because we need to clear the air about what happened Tuesday night, Deshawn began. About what we all did to Sasha. Now Deshawn, Mama Ruby started, we were just looking out for you. You know how women can be about. Stop, Deshawn cut her off. Just stop talking and listen to me. The sharpness in his voice surprised everyone, including Sasha. She had never heard him speak to his grandmother that way. Sasha was 11 weeks pregnant with our baby, he continued. She lost that baby because I pushed her down the stairs. Our baby died because you convinced me she was lying, and I believed you instead of believing my wife. The words hit the room like a physical force. Aunt Nessa's hand flew to her chest. Mama Ruby's mouth opened and closed without sound. That can't be right, Aunt Nessa whispered. She didn't look pregnant. She wasn't acting pregnant. She was acting exactly like a woman who had lost 2 babies before and was trying to protect this one, Simone said from the kitchen doorway. She was being careful because she loved that baby and wanted it to live. Sasha spoke for the first time since they arrived. I was waiting until 12 weeks to tell everyone because my doctor recommended it. I've had 2 miscarriages in the past year. 2 babies that Deshawn doesn't even know about because I was trying to protect him from the pain. 2 other babies? Mama Ruby's voice was barely a whisper. I've been trying to give you a great-grandchild for over a year, Sasha continued, her voice getting stronger. I've lost 3 babies because my body doesn't seem to want to carry them. And Tuesday night, when I finally had one that might have made it, you convinced my husband that I was lying. You laughed while I bled on the floor. The silence stretched on until Aunt Nessa started crying. Oh Lord, what did we do? What did we do? You killed our baby, Sasha said simply. That's what you did. Mama Ruby stood up abruptly, pacing to the window. We didn't know. How were we supposed to know? You could have asked me, Sasha said. You could have trusted that I love your grandson enough to tell him the truth about something this important. You could have remembered that I've never lied to any of you about anything in the 3 years I've been part of this family. But you were being so secretive, Mama Ruby argued, turning back to face them. Hiding doctor visits, not wanting to talk about it. What were we supposed to think? You were supposed to think that maybe I had a good reason, Sasha replied. You were supposed to remember that I'm your family now too, and trust me the way you trust each other. Deshawn leaned forward in his chair. Mama Ruby, you raised me to be a good man. You taught me to respect women and protect the people I love. But Tuesday night, you and Aunt Nessa convinced me to hurt my wife. You made me into someone I never wanted to be. We were protecting you, Mama Ruby said, but her voice lacked conviction. From what? From a woman who's been nothing but good to this family? From a wife who works 2 jobs to help pay for this house? From someone who sits with you every Sunday at church and helps you with your medicine and brings you flowers just because? Sasha's voice was rising. What exactly were you protecting him from? Aunt Nessa was crying harder now. We thought you were trying to trap him. Like Tanya did to cousin Marcus. We've seen women fake pregnancies before. I'm not Tanya, Sasha said firmly. I'm not cousin Tanya or your neighbor's daughter or some woman you heard about on TV. I'm Sasha. I'm the woman who married your grandson because I love him, not because I wanted to trap him. I'm the woman who's been trying to give you great-grandchildren because I thought you'd be happy about it. Mama Ruby sank back into her chair, suddenly looking every one of her 75 years. We messed up bad, didn't we? Yes, Sasha said without hesitation. You messed up so bad that I don't know if I can forgive you. The honesty of that statement seemed to shock everyone, including Sasha herself. But once the words were out, she realized they were true. She didn't know if she could forgive them. The image of them laughing while she lay bleeding was burned into her memory. What can we do? Aunt Nessa asked through her tears. How do we make this right? I don't know if you can, Sasha admitted. You made my husband think I would lie about carrying his child. You made him believe I was the kind of person who would fake a pregnancy for money or attention or whatever you thought I wanted. How do I get past that? Deshawn reached for her hand. Because they're going to earn your forgiveness. Because they're going to prove to you that they understand what they did and they're never going to do it again. How? Sasha asked. Mama Ruby cleared her throat. We go to counseling with you. All of us together. We learn how to be a family that trusts each other. Sasha looked at her in surprise. You do that? Child, I helped raise 11 grandchildren and great-grandchildren. I ain't perfect, but I ain't stupid either. What we did Tuesday night was wrong. Dead wrong. And if it takes sitting in some therapist's office talking about my feelings to fix it, then that's what I'll do. I'll do it too, Aunt Nessa said quickly. Whatever it takes. And you have to understand that things are going to be different now, Sasha said. You can't undermine me to my husband anymore. You can't question my motives or treat me like an outsider. If we're going to be family, we have to act like family. You're right, Mama Ruby said. You've been good to us and we repaid that by almost getting you killed. That ain't right by any measure. Simone spoke up from her spot by the kitchen. What about Sunday dinners? Y'all going to sit around the table and pretend this didn't happen? No, Sasha said. We're going to sit around the table and remember that it did happen, so it never happens again. We're going to talk about it until we understand each other. And we're going to grieve the baby we lost because of it. That last part broke something open in the room. Aunt Nessa started sobbing. Mama Ruby covered her face with her hands. Deshawn put his arm around Sasha, and for the first time since Tuesday night, she leaned into him. We lost our baby, she whispered. We lost our baby because we forgot how to trust each other. I'm sorry, Mama Ruby said, her voice muffled by her hands. I'm so sorry, Sasha. I'm sorry we lost that baby. I'm sorry we hurt you. I'm sorry we turned Deshawn into someone he ain't. We're going to make this right, Aunt Nessa added. However long it takes, we're going to make this right. Sasha nodded, feeling something shift in her chest. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was the possibility of forgiveness. It was the beginning of healing. Okay, she said. We'll try. But things are going to be different now. We're going to be a family that talks to each other instead of about each other. A family that trusts first and questions later. Can you live with that? Yes, Mama Ruby said immediately. Whatever you need. I need you to love me the way you love Deshawn, Sasha said. I need you to defend me the way you defend him. And I need you to remember that when you hurt me, you hurt him too. We will, Aunt Nessa promised. We'll do better. As the afternoon wore on, they talked more openly than they ever had before. About trust, about family, about the baby they had lost. It was painful and difficult, but it was also necessary. When Mama Ruby and Aunt Nessa left that evening, Sasha felt exhausted but hopeful. The road to healing would be long, but for the first time since Tuesday night, she believed they might actually walk it together. 6 months later, Sasha stood in front of the bathroom mirror, staring at the pregnancy test in her shaking hands. 2 pink lines looked back at her, clear and undeniable. She was pregnant again. This time the fear was different. Not the fear of losing the baby, though that was still there, but the fear of telling Deshawn. They had been through months of therapy, both individual and couples counseling. They had learned to communicate better, to trust each other more deeply. But the memory of that terrible night was still raw. Sasha? Deshawn called from the bedroom. You okay in there? She took a deep breath and opened the bathroom door. Deshawn was sitting on their bed, and when he saw her face, he stood up immediately. What's wrong? He asked, moving toward her. Instead of answering, she held out the pregnancy test. Deshawn looked at it, then at her, then back at the test. His face went through a dozen emotions before settling on something like wonder. You're pregnant, he said quietly. I'm pregnant, she confirmed. They stood there looking at each other across the space that 6 months ago had been filled with mistrust and pain. Now it held something else, hope mixed with caution, but hope nonetheless. How do you feel about it? Deshawn asked carefully. Dr. Morrison, their counselor, had taught them to check in with each other's emotions instead of assuming. Scared, Sasha admitted. Happy but scared. What about you? The same, he said. Scared and happy and grateful that you're telling me right away this time. She smiled at that. Dr. Lewis says early communication is key to reducing anxiety for both partners. No more secrets, right? No more secrets, he agreed, crossing the room to take her hands. We do this together every step. The next morning, they called Dr. Lewis together and made an appointment for the following week. Then they sat down to decide when and how to tell the family. I want to tell them early this time, Sasha said. I know it's riskier, but I think the secrecy was part of what caused problems before. Deshawn nodded. Whatever you want to do, we'll do it together. But I think you're right about the secrecy. Dr. Lewis was pleased to see how different their dynamic was this time, how Deshawn asked thoughtful questions and how Sasha included him in every discussion. You've both done remarkable work in therapy, Dr. Lewis observed. This pregnancy feels completely different from the last one I treated you for. We're completely different people now, Sasha said and meant it. The Sunday dinner where they planned to announce the pregnancy was at Mama Ruby's house, as usual. The family dinners had resumed after 3 months of family therapy, but they were different now. Less gossip, more genuine conversation. Less assumption, more direct communication. Sasha still felt nervous as they sat around the familiar table, but it was a different kind of nervous. She wasn't afraid of being disbelieved or undermined. She was just afraid of jinxing something precious. The table went quiet. Aunt Nessa set down her fork. Mama Ruby looked between them with cautious hope. I'm pregnant, Sasha said simply. About 6 weeks along. We saw Dr. Lewis this week and everything looks good so far. The silence stretched for a moment, and then Mama Ruby started crying. Not the suspicious tears from before, but tears of joy and relief. Oh, praise Jesus, she said, standing up to hug Sasha. Praise Jesus, baby. How are you feeling? What does the doctor say? What do you need from us? The change in her reaction was like night and day. Instead of suspicion, there was immediate acceptance. Instead of questions about authenticity, there were questions about care and support. I'm feeling good, Sasha said, hugging her back. A little tired, a little nervous. But Dr. Lewis says everything looks healthy. We'll take good care of you this time, Aunt Nessa said, reaching across the table to squeeze Sasha's hand. Whatever you need. I need you to trust me, Sasha said. And to support Deshaun if he gets worried. This is scary for both of us after what happened last time. We will, Mama Ruby promised. We've learned our lesson about that. Haven't we, Nessa? Aunt Nessa nodded vigorously. Dr. Morrison taught us about being supportive family members instead of judgmental ones. We know better now. The family therapy had been difficult but transformative. They had learned about boundary setting, communication patterns, and how cultural expectations about pregnancy could create unnecessary pressure. Most importantly, they had learned to see Sasha as a full member of the family, not an outsider who needed to prove herself. As the pregnancy progressed, the difference was remarkable. Deshaun came to every doctor's appointment, asking informed questions and taking notes. Mama Ruby called regularly to check on Sasha's well-being, offering practical help instead of criticism. Aunt Nessa, who was a nurse, became a valuable resource for pregnancy questions. When Sasha reached 12 weeks, the milestone that had been so important to her before, they celebrated with a small family party. Dr. Lewis declared the pregnancy healthy and progressing normally. This feels like a miracle, Sasha told Deshaun that night as they lay in bed, his hand on her growing belly. It is a miracle, he agreed. Not just the baby, but us. The fact that we made it through what happened and came out stronger. Do you think about that night? She asked. It was something they had talked about in therapy but rarely discussed alone. Every day, he admitted. It reminds me how precious this is, how precious you are. I never want to take any of it for granted again. I don't think I could survive losing another baby, she said quietly. Especially not this one. You won't have to, he said firmly. This baby is going to make it. I can feel it. He was right. At 20 weeks, they learned they were having a daughter. At 30 weeks, Dr. Lewis pronounced everything perfectly healthy. And at 38 weeks and 2 days, Amara Deshaun Coleman was born, weighing 6 pounds 11 ounces, with her father's eyes and her mother's determined chin. The delivery room was filled with tears of joy instead of grief. Mama Ruby and Aunt Nessa waited in the hallway, respectfully giving the new parents their first moments alone with their daughter. She's perfect, Deshaun whispered, holding tiny Amara against his chest. She's absolutely perfect. She's ours, Sasha said, feeling complete for the first time since that terrible night on the stairs. She's really ours. When they finally let the family meet their granddaughter, Mama Ruby took one look at Amara and started crying again. She looks just like Deshaun did when he was born, she said. Same little nose, same serious expression. She's got Sasha's stubborn streak already, Aunt Nessa observed as baby Amara gripped her finger with surprising strength. This little girl is going to change the world. As Sasha watched her husband and his family fuss over their daughter, she felt something she hadn't experienced in years, complete peace. They had walked through fire and come out on the other side, not just intact but stronger. I want to say something, Sasha said, her voice getting everyone's attention. 6 months ago, I thought our family was broken forever. I thought what happened on those stairs had destroyed something that couldn't be fixed. She looked at each of them, Deshaun holding their daughter, Mama Ruby wiping happy tears, Aunt Nessa beaming with pride. But we did fix it. We did the hard work of learning to trust each other again. And now we have this beautiful baby girl who will never know a family that doesn't communicate, that doesn't trust, that doesn't protect each other. She's going to know a family that fights for each other instead of against each other, Deshawn added, kissing Amara's tiny head. That's right, Mama Ruby said firmly. This little girl is going to grow up knowing she's loved and protected and believed. She's going to know that family means having people who support you no matter what. Dr. Lewis knocked on the door and entered with discharge papers. How's our little miracle doing? Perfect, Sasha said, taking Amara from Deshawn. Absolutely perfect. And Mom and Dad are doing well too, I can see, Dr. Lewis observed, noting the peaceful atmosphere in the room. This is quite different from the last time I treated you. We're quite different people now, Deshawn said, echoing Sasha's words from months earlier. As they prepared to leave the hospital and take their daughter home, Sasha felt a deep sense of gratitude. Not just for the healthy baby in her arms, but for the journey that had brought them here. The pain, the therapy, the hard conversations, the rebuilding of trust, all of it had been worth it to arrive at this moment. Ready to take our daughter home? Deshawn asked, loading the car seat with practiced care he'd learned in parenting classes. More than ready, Sasha replied, settling into the passenger seat with Amara. Let's go home. 2 years later, Sasha stood in her classroom at Washington Elementary, watching her third-grade students work on their reading comprehension worksheets. It was Friday afternoon and she could see some of them getting restless, but she felt energized by their progress this year. Her phone buzzed with a text from Deshawn. Mama Ruby has Amara for the afternoon. Movie. The news was another pregnancy test, hidden in her purse since that morning. 4 pink lines this time, twins, according to the digital display. She was nervous about telling Deshawn, not because she feared his reaction, but because twins meant higher risk, more complications, more worry. But they were different people now. They had tools for handling anxiety and uncertainty. They had a family support system that had proven itself through the hardest test possible. When she got home that afternoon, Deshawn was in the kitchen making her favorite pasta dish. Amara was at Mama Ruby's house for a sleepover, giving them their first evening alone in months. Something smells amazing, she said, wrapping her arms around his waist from behind. Thought I'd try that recipe Mama Ruby taught me, he said, turning in her arms to kiss her. How was your day? Good. Productive. Full of surprises. She pulled the pregnancy test from her purse. Speaking of surprises. Deshawn looked at the test, squinting at the display. Does that say twins? It says twins, she confirmed, watching his face carefully. His expression shifted from surprise to wonder to concern. How do you feel about twins? She loved that he asked her feelings first now instead of assuming. Excited, terrified, grateful. What about you? All of the same things, he said, pulling her closer. Twins means higher risk, right? More doctor visits, more monitoring? Probably. Dr. Lewis will want to see us more frequently. We'll need to be extra careful. Then that's what we'll do, he said simply. Whatever it takes to bring our babies home safely. That evening, over dinner at their favorite restaurant, they talked through the practical implications of twins. Childcare costs, a bigger car, converting Deshawn's home office into a second nursery. But underneath the logistics, there was excitement and hope. Amara's going to be such a good big sister, Sasha said, picturing their toddler with twin babies. She's already so protective of other kids at daycare, Deshawn agreed. Mama Ruby says she's got your fierce heart. And your gentle hands, Sasha added. She's going to be amazing with them. When they told the family the following Sunday, the reaction was pure joy. Mama Ruby immediately started planning how to rearrange her schedule to help with 3 grandchildren. Aunt Nessa began researching twin pregnancy nutrition. Simone squealed so loudly that Amara started clapping, thinking it was a game. Twins? Mama Ruby kept saying. Lord have mercy, twins. We're going to need a bigger table for Sunday dinner. We're going to need a lot of things, Deshawn laughed. But we'll figure it out. Of course we will, Aunt Nessa said. That's what families do. We figure it out together. The twin pregnancy was more challenging than Sasha's pregnancy with Amara. More morning sickness, more fatigue, more medical appointments. But it was also filled with more support, more communication, more trust. Deshawn rearranged his construction schedule to come to every appointment. Mama Ruby moved in with them for the last month of pregnancy. Aunt Nessa took vacation time to help after the birth. Simone organized meal trains and childcare rotations. When Sasha went into labor at 36 weeks, she wasn't alone for a single moment. Deshawn held her hand through every contraction. Dr. Lewis monitored both babies carefully. The entire family waited in the hallway, Amara with Mama Ruby, everyone ready to meet the newest family members. Zion Deshaun Coleman was born first, weighing 5 pounds 2 ounces. His sister, Serenity Rose Coleman, followed 3 minutes later, weighing 5 pounds even. Both babies were healthy, strong, and loudly announcing their arrival to the world. 2 more miracles, Dr. Lewis said as she placed the twins in Sasha's arms. You've got quite a collection now. Later, as the family took turns meeting Zion and Serenity, Sasha reflected on the journey that had brought them here. 3 years ago, she had been lying at the bottom of stairs, bleeding and broken, convinced her marriage was over. Now she was surrounded by 5 people who loved her unconditionally, holding 2 healthy babies while her toddler daughter slept peacefully in her grandmother's arms. What are you thinking about? Deshawn asked, settling into the chair beside her hospital bed. How far we've come, she said. How different everything is now. Better, he said. Everything is so much better. Do you think the twins will ever know about what happened before Amara was born? She asked. Deshawn considered this. I think they'll know that our family went through something difficult and came out stronger. They'll know that love and trust have to be chosen every day. They'll know that families can heal from anything if everyone commits to doing the work. That's a good lesson for them to learn, Sasha agreed. Mama Ruby approached with Amara, who was rubbing sleepy eyes and reaching for her mama. Someone wants to meet her baby brother and sister. They lifted Amara onto the hospital bed carefully, showing her the tiny babies. She looked at them with serious 2-year-old concentration, then gently patted Zion's head. Babies, she said proudly, like she had personally accomplished something remarkable. That's right, baby girl, Sasha said. These are your babies to help take care of. As evening settled over Atlanta, the hospital room filled with quiet conversation and soft laughter. Aunt Nessa was already making plans for the baby's first Christmas. Mama Ruby was calculating how much bigger they'd need to make Sunday dinner. Simone was taking pictures of every moment. And in the middle of it all, Sasha held her newborn twins while her husband held their toddler, surrounded by family that had learned to choose love over fear, trust over suspicion, healing over hurt. This is what we fought for, she whispered to Deshawn. This moment, this family, this love. And it was worth every hard step we took to get here, he whispered back. Outside, the Atlanta skyline twinkled in the distance, and somewhere in the city, other families were facing their own tests of trust and love. But in room 312 at Grady Hospital, the Coleman family was complete, healed, and ready for whatever beautiful challenges lay ahead. The stairs that had once been a symbol of pain and betrayal were now just stairs in a house filled with the sounds of children laughing, parents who trusted each other completely, and grandparents who had learned that love means believing the best about each other, especially when it's hard. Amara fell asleep against her father's chest while the twins slept peacefully in their mother's arms, and Sasha realized that this was what healing looked like, not the absence of scars, but the presence of love that was deeper and stronger because of what